Hey everybody, welcome back to the Alfie Whattam Technology Podcast. If you're watching this today, it is Hump Day, it's Wednesday. Thank you for joining, thank you for tuning in. As always, this episode is sponsored and brought to you by welovealpha.com. If you're looking to hire software developers, then go to welovealpha.com, and the cute dog is not included, I'm afraid, but we have the best Java, .NET, React, Angular, mobile engineers across the UK. So if you need to hire developers, welovealpha.com is where you need to go. Today on the podcast, I am brought to you by a special guest, Mr. Paul Zhu. Thanks for joining, Paul. Could you give us a little bit of an intro, mate? Tell us who you are and tell us what your startup's about, please.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alfie. So firstly, I just want to apologize for the construction noise that's happening right outside.
So good,
if any
mate.
disruption, apologies on that. But yes, my name is Paul. I am currently building or trying to build a startup. And what we're trying to do, well, we're called Heyra, firstly. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to help people to form local friendship groups to live more sustainably together. And I'm really interested in both parts of this problem. One, the whole friendship circle element and systemizing a process to try to recreate that, because it seems to be in such dire demand, and we are surrounded by people, yet so few of us actually have really tight friendship circles, whilst many researchers believe that we are still wired to be that way. And the sustainability angle is to kind of help people sort of to give people a reason to meet up regularly. And ultimately, from an impact perspective, we're trying to tap into this positive feedback loop that exists between public behavior change and climate policy. So by shifting people's behavior, even incrementally, but at scale, we can change policy, which is ultimately the goal here.
Awesome, man. Well, we met at a London tech networking meetup event. When you told me about your idea, I thought it would be a great opportunity to have you on and get your perspective into what's happening in the world. So without further ado, let's go into the UK and the global tech news for the week. Let's get your perspective and your opinion in terms of what's happening. So to begin with, our friends over at Netflix, they are planning to launch their own video game studio. So Netflix is setting up its own video game studio as it intensifies its efforts to establish itself in the gaming industry. Based in Helsinki, over in Finland, it's led by former Zynga and EA executive Marco Lastica. Netflix has previously purchased small gaming companies, Oxenfree, Night Score Studio, but the streaming giant is now going further and further and creating a brand new studio from scratch. Lastica is an established figure in gaming. He co-founded Zynga, which everyone knows. He worked on Farmville 3 under his leadership, and also the VP for game studios at Netflix, Amir Rahimi, announced the vision is to build a world-class games studio. It'll bring a variety of delightful and deeply engaging original games with no ads and no in-app purchases, which is awesome to see. Obviously, Netflix has had a hard time recently, losing 200,000 subscribers and its first quarterly loss since 2011. And with almost 1 million subscribers lost over the last couple of months, the biggest in its history, obviously it needs to do something to help turn the tide. So interesting, Netflix are now going into gaming. What do you make of this, Paul?
Well, it's kind of an interesting play. It's quite a bold play, obviously. So in my mind, their stock price is plummeting and they're sort of struggling and they're hedging their bets on gaming, which to me seems like quite a bold one, because I'd imagine most of their users probably aren't really interested in playing games. Is my guess. I could be completely wrong there, but I did have a look at it. I think they haven't really been advertising it very hard at the moment, but there's like 1% of people who are playing, even with of users that they're actually playing their games, which is actually not insignificant, I would say, considering there's been no marketing around it.
Yeah.
But in my mind, they're kind of trying to, I'm guessing they're trying to move into the cloud gaming space.
Yeah, I don't think it's like AAA, like, Call of Duty style games. I think it's more developing a Stranger Things version of Candy Crush, if you know what I mean. It's mobile free-to-play games, which keeps you all bought into the series, bought into the movie, and kind of hooked on their original content, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I watched this one video that was talking about it, and they were saying how they're hiring cloud engineers. I don't know if that means that they are trying to build a proper proper gaming platform like Stadia, because like that makes more sense to me. If you're going to be competing in the gaming space, you go big and you go to those sorts of games. But then again, if you do make a viral game like Candy Crush, then yeah, obviously it does well. But I think the chances of that happening are probably somewhat low. Like all they're really doing seemingly is leveraging their IP and different characters and stuff. But yeah, very interested to see how it turns out.
It's interesting you brought up Stadia, because Stadia was closed. I think it was this week. They've shut it down. It hasn't.
Really?
It hasn't gone to plan. They launched it. Reviews were pretty terrible, and then they pivoted. They tried to make it something else, supporting other platforms from a cloud gaming perspective. And now that they've shut down the entire project and lost millions. So obviously, it's an example that big tech companies can't just dominate any market that they want. Sometimes it doesn't work out. But I think the way that Netflix are going about this probably increases their odds if they're building on the IP rather than trying to do something from scratch. I always feel with Netflix, there's like so many options nowadays. It was Netflix, but you got Prime Video, you got Disney Plus, you've got Hulu, you've got so many different options. Do you use any of these? Do you use multiple ones of these, or do you just do what I do and illegally download everything?
You torrent, Alfie? Oh no.
Well, stream it, not torrent.
You stream? Oh yeah, because I torrent. So yeah, so I've never actually bought any other service other than Netflix. I have a TV license, so I have iPlayer, BBC iPlayer. But yeah, I've been watching the new Game of Thrones, thanks to torrent sites. But I mean, it makes sense. There's so much good content on so many different platforms now that, like, for Netflix to go, okay, let's compete on content is just impossible now. Even if they put more and more content out, it's just not going to happen. So they have to do something else to try and retain, that market share. But like, in a way, and I don't know how you feel about this, but in terms of like, why grow? Like, I mean, you could downsize. And obviously, from a business standpoint, you want to keep growing. If your share price is going down, it's bad. But to take an L is not that bad in my mind. But
it's hard when it's a big company, right? That an L could mean billions wiped out of their stock price. So it's different, I suppose, when it's a big enterprise like that. Are you watching the new House of Dragons? You said, or
That's the one. I'm on episode 1, so.
I don't want to ruin it for you, but I kind of feel like I've got to make one little thing that I want to say. I watched the first series, I think episode 6, and then in episode 6 they've changed half of the actors, the cast. So so suddenly the girl, the main character, it's a different person now. It's because they've sent it into the future, like 10 years, but some of the other characters are exactly the same person. So I was watching it with the missus, and we were so confused. We were like, what's going on? They've changed half of the cast. So I don't know why they did that, because I got so bought into the characters, and then suddenly it's a completely new set of people. It's hard for me to keep engaged. So they've lost me, unfortunately. But the first 5 episodes were amazing. I just wish there were more dragons. That's what I want to see. I want to see dragons fighting. I want to see fire everywhere. But yeah, it's a good show. It's just I just wish they didn't do that.
Yeah, I'm keen for future episodes. But I think in the first episode we only saw 1 dragon, but apparently they have 10. I want the CGI budget to be spent in episode 1 so I can see all 10 in one go. But I guess that might come a bit later on.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, look, that's Netflix. Keeping on the theme of big tech, over at Twitter, they're adding a TikTok-like full screen video feature. So Twitter is adding new features to make it easier for users to watch and discover videos on its platform. The social network announced on Thursday. Most notably, the company is launching a scrollable TikTok-like video feed. In the coming days, users on Apple will be able to click a video on their feed to go onto the new scrollable feed. And once you finish watching the video, you'll be able to scroll up and start browsing similar content. Then you'll be in a scrollable feed, just like TikTok, just like the Facebook clone, which is that they're working on, just like Instagram Reels, just like YouTube Shorts. Everybody is going on to this, given the AI, given the algorithm, given it's what keeps people hooked, and given it's probably the future of social media. What do you make of Twitter kind of copying TikTok when it comes to this?
Yeah, so I think it makes loads of sense in my mind. Compared to Netflix going to gaming, this is a relatively cheap thing to build for them. And they have a big user base, obviously. And I think several things. Firstly, TikTok is always sort of at the risk, or there's always news about it maybe being banned.
Yeah.
In the West. So that's the case. That opens up that market massively. And I think Reels, and I've not actually looked at YouTube short much, but I'm fairly familiar with Reels. The algorithm apparently is not as good as the TikTok one.
Yeah.
So they haven't quite nailed it. So for Twitter to come in and give it a go makes loads of sense. Like there's no real harm in just trying.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie, I kind of hate the short video format. The full screen short video format is so unbelievably addictive. Reels are a bane on my life.
I don't even start anymore, mate, because it's like candy. Once you had one, it's just you are hooked, and it's scary really to think, you know, imagine that in VR or something. You just would never leave. I mean, it's insane in terms of what it's become. But one thing that's interesting about TikTok is they the creators don't really get paid anything for making the content. You get paid minuscule. You can get billions of views and you make a couple of grand. Whereas with YouTube Shorts, you get like 50% or something of the money. So you can actually make a decent living if you're a content creator. So I think one thing TikTok are going to need to do is create a more fairer revenue split for their customers. Otherwise, Shorts, Reels, etc., they're going to start to get a lot of the people at TikTok moving over to focus more on those platforms. I still think they'll post on TikTok because it's reach. It's not just about money, it's about fame and an audience as well, right? But you know, can you see that happening? I mean, like, companies don't last forever, do they? People move around and go back and forth when it comes to tech.
Yeah, I mean, like, so at the moment, TikTok seems to be the hot thing.
Yeah.
And people don't really seem to be shifting that much. I think people who are avoiding downloading TikTok, like me, are on, if you're already on Instagram, you tend to stay on your platform. I'm not on Twitter, but I know a lot of people are on Twitter and not really on Instagram. So maybe that will capture that market. I think also for Twitter though, I think given that they do have monetization problems, this might be some play for them to you know, try something for revenue effectively, which again, I think makes a lot of sense for them.
They've just released Twitter Blue, which is a more upgraded subscription version of the platform. And then just this morning, it's been announced that Elon Musk's deal with Twitter is now back on. So he's now made obviously he's going back and forth for ages, wasn't going to buy it anymore. You know, the share price dropped. He's now stated that he's going to be buying the company at the original transaction price. The share value is soared this morning, which I'm happy for as a tiny investor. And so it's back on. What do you make of Elon is going to own Twitter in a couple of months? What do you think of that?
I generally like it. I'm pretty team Elon. I know he's a pretty controversial guy, but yeah, like I say, I'm team Elon. It seems like his intentions are pretty positive overall. He might be a bit cringy. He might make some bad jokes, but ultimately, I think he's great. And I think his influence at Twitter, it seems, at least on the surface, to be really positive. He wants to make it more transparent, less bots, more real free speech. So in my mind, it's great. What about you? The team Elon?
It seems, yeah. I mean, I think he's a genius. I mean, I don't think anyone, even if you hate him, I mean, if you deny the fact that he's insanely intelligent, then you're just lying, aren't you? I mean, he's built multiple billion-dollar companies from scratch. Not many people can do that. I mean, that's and he hasn't done it in something boring like, I don't know, printing or making some restaurant. He's made a rocket ship company that can land itself. He's made he hasn't made a car. He's made essentially a huge supercomputer which can drive around. And with the new Tesla bot the other day that was just unveiled, that, I mean, when he starts selling them, I think it's $20,000, that's going to replace warehouse workers and all kinds of things, which, if you think about it, could be the biggest industry ever, because it's human labor. It's not, which is what all companies need, really. So when you take into account all of those things, love him, hate him, I know he's controversial. I don't think you can deny the fact that he's insanely talented and the sort of once in a generation type leader, that an ideas man that comes along. He's bought Twitter. Obviously, he's you know, a bit of pie in the face, given that he tried to get a better price, didn't work out, and now he's kind of gone back to his original value. But his rationale is he's trying to build what's called X.com, which he actually owns the domain. I think it's empty right now, but he wants to turn it into the Everything app, which is an app which has got Twitter, it's got loads of other things inevitably, which in a couple of years I'm sure he'll follow through on his vision for. But it's a super app he's trying to build, where it's got a public town square with Twitter, probably other video platforms and other kind of features as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's like it's like WeChat in China.
Yeah. That's what my wife's Chinese. I use WeChat to speak to her family and that sort of thing. It's yeah, that's a super app, right? You can do everything inside it: payments, networking, everything.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about that? Do you think that is feasible in the West, to take, say, a platform like Twitter or like Instagram or Facebook and actually bring it to, you know, this a super app? Like, do you think that's feasible, like realistically feasible?
I would be surprised if Meta weren't planning on doing something like this, given they've now got a holding company and they own Facebook, they own WhatsApp, they own Instagram. I imagine they own Messenger. I imagine they'll want to. I mean, that's kind of what they're doing with the VR. And you know, I've got the Oculus headset, and you know, they're working on the Project Cambria, the new one. I think that's being released in a couple of weeks, or at least unveiled. And I think inevitably that's what they're trying to do as well. But the thing about an everything app is in certain markets you only can have a certain percentage of the market share unless it becomes a monopoly. That's why Google invests in so many different things, because then they're not the monopoly on the search business. They're a tech company, and then they can do so much other things, and they don't have to claim from a government perspective that that they own the search market, because we're not a search company, we're an everything company, and we own 2% of that of tech, rather than 95% of search or whatever it is. So I think it's interesting to do from an ease of use perspective. It's hard to do from a regulation perspective, because you can very quickly get broken up if the government gets mad at you over something. And someone like Elon Musk, he ain't got many friends in the government at the moment. He seems to be against the Democrats a lot of the time and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's an interesting point. It's hard to do. It's easier probably in China, where there's less kind of regulation for that sort of thing, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. China, it's many things possible if you know the right people in China.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, look, final article of the day. We talked about robots a second ago with Elon's company, but to kind of go into that a little bit further, specifically in the area of sports, believe it or not. So this robot has set the new 100-meter record. So I've got a little video. We'll play this because it's absolutely insane. So a robot named Cassie has set the new Guinness World Record for the 100-meter dash, clocking in 24.73 seconds at an average speed of 4 meters a second, which is 9 miles per hour. That's much slower than a human. Oh, so it looks like it's a robot world record, perhaps not a human world record, but still very impressive. It's the first robot to run, but it's obviously not going to be the last. And there it is, the little thing going. That's like an episode of Black Mirror in many respects, or the Twilight Zone, but obviously insanely cool as well. And I can just imagine the applications, military, for example, strap a machine gun on top of that and watch that run into the battlefield, and so on. So crazy to see what's happening in that respect. But it was engineered by Oregon State University and is manufactured by Agility Robotics. It uses the same technology developed for its legged robot Digit, which is not only capable of walking and climbing stairs, but also can pick up small packages. Obviously, you've got like Boston Dynamics, which are the main players in this world. Elon's getting into it. It seems like everybody seems to be more and more into the advanced robotic and kind of RPA world, given the sheer amount of applications that it can have. But robots running on track, what do you make of that, Paul?
I think of all the ways to die, this is one of the worst. To be chased down by a pair of giant frog legs that are sprinting towards you.
Yeah, with an iPad screen on the front of it, and
iPad screen with a sad face or an angry face.
Somebody streaming it live on Twitch as people are paying donations to watch you get hunted down. Hey, who knows?
Exactly. So, but yeah, obviously the technology is absolutely amazing. The first time I read the title as well, I also thought, oh, this robot has beaten, Usain Bolt. But yeah, that's probably what, a few years away, 5 years, 2 years maybe, who knows?
I'd say one or two probably.
Yeah.
I'm obviously
something
completely
like
estimating,
that. But yeah, like my thought like initially was, so speed, like what is really valuable for speed and being bipedal? So obviously being able to go across, difficult terrain, but the speed, like in my mind, what would be really good is like rescue missions.
Yeah.
Like, or if somebody is lost, if there's a missing person, you can like sweep a forest really quickly. If you have like 20 of these things, they just run.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, like what other really good applications do you think?
Well,
Speed?
anything, I mean, like this one's just got the legs, right? But Boston Dynamics, they've got one called it's Spot, which is it can open doors, it can be used in warehouses. They've got I can't remember the name of it, but it's got an arm on it, which is good for like manufacturing and on the assembly line. So, I mean, in theory, it can replace, and then obviously self-driving cars doesn't require a robot, but the car itself is a robot at the end of the day, because, but when you think about this, it could replace, Uber drivers, it could replace logistics of truck drivers, it could replace warehouse workers, it could replace, I mean, obviously it creates jobs as well, but it's hard for somebody driving a UPS truck to suddenly start being a Python developer, right? So what do you make of the fact that in a couple of years we're going to have millions of people laid off because of these? I mean, do you think that I'm not asking you to solve that problem, man, but what do you think of that?
So obviously it is inevitable.
Yeah.
And it's I think, growing inequality is going to be rampant. Inequality will get worse and worse. It seems like if there are not safety systems put in place, like better benefits, maybe UBI, etc., or something along those lines, it seems like we're going to hit like a boiling point if that doesn't happen. So in my mind, it could lead to something like UBI.
That was Andrew Yang's thing, right? In the States, he wanted. He said robots are going to take over all the jobs. We need to give people $1,000 a month or something. That was his whole message.
Yeah, universal basic income, basically to give everyone free money, what they need. So all your food bills, everything covered, so you can survive and you can be fine. And if we have tons of robots doing this, and we have probably Tesla's new robot company, or sorry. It is Tesla, right?
It's Tesla, yeah.
It's Tesla. With like $1 trillion valuation, maybe, that the tax money could be spread to people. I'm not too sure.
I don't know either. It's not an easy answer, is it? I don't know. I mean, like who knows? And thankfully, I'm not making that decision, and I don't want to be. That's a very stressful thing. But how long do you think it is until we start seeing robots in day-to-day life? You're going to buy your coffee, and you've got a robot. You've got an iPad on their chest. You press what you want. They vanish and they come back holding a latte, going, "Hey Paul, check that out." How long until you've got a robot sweeping the streets in the centre of London? I mean, when do you think? A couple of years? Do you think 10 years? Less than 5 years? Plucking a number out the air. When do you think that's going to happen?
I think we will always have analog humans doing things, even if they're just a quota. So I reckon there's going to be a real difficult shift by policymakers, as well as just a consumer demand. People will want humans, will want actual people there. But when will it be technically feasible? A few years. It could probably be done, if people are willing to pay. I mean, now I'm sure you could pay a ton of money and like have a half decent working robot making cocktails or food. I know that already exists. There are restaurants in China and Japan and stuff where they have cocktail making, and like I saw one where it's like a mechanical arm that operates a wok.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So it basically makes like Chinese food.
Yeah.
So we have this tech now. It's whether or not the demand will be there for it, and at what point does it become cheap enough that it becomes cheaper than human labor.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get a robot which doesn't need to take vacations, it doesn't get sick, it doesn't, take long lunch breaks or whatever, it doesn't take any lunch break. I mean, like surely that's, from a business return on investment perspective, a better way to run your company. Obviously, there is the empathetic social implication that is it a right thing to do to fire somebody to replace them with a machine? Probably not, but it's a hard line to walk, and who knows what the right answer is, right? It's a difficult one.
Yeah, completely. I really see the Tesla bot as being one of the more likely candidates to be really taking over everything.
Yeah,
given
Elon,
its price.
right? Elon makes stuff happen.
He makes stuff happen, but also the price point he is claiming is going to be the actual price point, and it's not delayed massively like some of his cars. It could happen really soon, like really, really soon, even like next year. So I think one of the bigger ones, one of the more significant transitions, I think, will be in construction. Because construction has so many different types of jobs and so many different subcontractors doing specific roles. I think you have one robot that comes in that revolutionizes construction, which is one of the biggest industries around the world. But, yeah.
You've got Amazon have released an Astro, a new version of their Alexa, which is a robot, it's got little wheels, it's got a big iPad screen on the face, it follows you around. You can put a drink and say, hey, bring that to Paul, and it will go and find you and take it to you. So that's like $1,000. So, and then Amazon have just bought is it Roomba or iRobot? I can't remember the name of the company, but they've the robot vacuum cleaners, which are obviously much smaller scale robots, but still robots at the end of the day. So for me, the Elon bot, that's probably more the consumer business end to begin with, and then these mini little robots, the Amazons, etc., that they will become the gateway drug into that different future later on.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. Yeah, definitely. There will be gateway drugs to more and more robotization. Eventually, to us all getting chips in our brain, and we become robots ourselves.
Yes.
What I'm actually quite excited for is replacing joints. Because if you have like a knee injury, just get a new knee. That would be incredible. That would be so good.
Well, forget the injury, Paul. What happens when you can get a robot arm and you can stretch out and grab a glass of water from across the room, or when you can get robot legs and you can run faster than Usain Bolt? At that point, people won't you won't get a new leg because you had your leg blown off in war, or you had it amputated. You'll get it because you'll need to get it in order to stay competitive in the marketplace. Same with the Neuralink brain chip. You'll need to get it, because if you go to a job interview and there's 3 candidates and 2 of them have it and can think twice as quick as you, and you don't have it, you'll get left behind. So evolution will natural selection will become technological selection, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. And I realize we're slightly running out of time, but
that's good.
I read this really interesting article by this, it was a while back, but it talked about this species called Gelatus rosorius, which is basically Gillette razor. And if you look at it, the Gillette razor started as a stick, like one handle and a single blade. Then it became 2 blades, and 3. Then there was a swivel head, then there was a grip, and then it was vibrating. It really is evolution in that sense. Like if you look at it, technology does evolve, whether or not it is, well, I guess the argument of the article was that evolution is not limited to biology. It is a universal process that just happens. So the fact that, we can start to control that with our arms and with our bionic arms and our giant frog legs and whatnot, like that is, it is literally evolution.
And then if it does become conscious through advanced AI, then it is potentially evolution, on a biological level, or at least a biotechnological level, if that makes sense. But
absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much, Paul, for coming on. It was good to get your perspective into what's happening this week, this month, this year in the world of tech. Obviously, if you're watching, thank you for your patience to getting to the end, and check us out on Spotify. Search Alfie Whattam podcast. We're posting new episodes almost every other day at the moment. So if you want to keep on top of what's happening in the world of tech in 15, 20, 30 minutes over your lunch break, then check us out on Spotify. website. And of course, if you are looking to hire the best engineers on the marketplace, then all you need to do is go to welovealpha.com to find the top developers that you need to grow your team and succeed in today's economy. So thanks, Paul. Thanks for coming on, and thank you all for watching.
Cheers, Alfie.